Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be talking about why I don't like the Book of Boba Fett. This video will contain spoilers from the show, so please do keep that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. I'm going to begin this video with a disclaimer. Boba Fett was always my favourite Star Wars character growing up as a kid. I remember reading books and comics about him in the early 90s and 2000s. I remember reading a book in which he escaped the Sarlacc pit. I remember reading a comic in which he fought Darth Vader and won. I also remember a comic called Twin Engines of Destruction, I believe it was, in which he fights Jodo Cast, who is a dude who is copying Boba Fett, wearing the same armor as him, basically pretending to be him so that he can get access to better bounty contracts. And to this day I still remember the ending of that comic. I remember Boba Fett paralyzing Jodo Cast with a nerve toxin, with a nerve dart. You know, I remember seeing Jodo Cast on the floor and Boba Fett rigs his jetpack to blow and he says to him, oh, in front of you here's a vial which one of them has the antidote. You know, if you find the strength to move and to get the antidote, you may be able to survive and get out of here in time, but you won't because you're not me. And then he walks off. And to me that just summed up Boba Fett when I was a kid. You know, this smug bounty hunter who knows he's the best at what he does, and you know, he even teases the guy by saying, oh, you're not me, so you won't survive, but you know, I will because I'm Boba Fett. You know, that just summed him up to me. And then I watched the Disney show and this is what Boba Fett does.
This makes it go. This makes it stop. Go, stop. Like a bantha. Yes? Like a bantha. Yes?
What the hell happened to you, Boba? What is going on? I mean, the Boba Fett that we have on the Disney show is nothing like the Boba Fett that, you know, Star Wars fans came to know and love in the expanded universe, which I believe is now rebranded as Star Wars Legends. At the time of recording this video, I have only watched the first 4 episodes of the show, and I believe there's a 5th one out today, but from what I can tell, that mainly focuses on the Mandalorian anyway, not Boba Fett, so I'm still going to go ahead and explain the rest of this video and why I feel the way I do. The Boba Fett that we see in the Boba Fett TV show isn't Boba Fett. This guy isn't a bounty hunter, he's a social worker. He just goes around helping people, asking people about their petty problems, helping them out. He claims that he wants to be the Daimo, which is a title that's given to the crime lords in Tatooine, but he doesn't actually do anything criminal. He's not involved in any criminal activities apart from just collecting his, what do they call it, his tribute from people, which is just money, but these people don't seem, you know, particularly bothered, you know, or upset that they have to give it to him anyway. They just do it. So we don't actually see him doing anything criminal for a guy who's supposedly, you know, a crime lord. He's more concerned with ruling with respect, as he puts it, and just recruiting people to aid his job. He just goes around recruiting people. That's all he does. This show is nothing like the show we were promised at the end of Mandalorian Season 2 when Boba shot and killed Bib Fortuna and then sat on his throne. I mean, this show is nothing like that. This show just feels like a show about a village elder who wants to be mayor, so he's just going around talking to people saying, vote for me. That's what this show feels like. I just don't understand why you'd make him a crime lord if he's not going to actually be involved, you know, with crime, anything criminal, you know? I mean, for God's sake, this is Star Wars. We could have had a whole series about him smuggling contraband in and out of Tatooine and going to different planets to, you know, to source goods. It could have been a really good show, you know? Not just a show about a dude who just sits on his arse and, yeah, just walks around with his helmet off and he's half naked in a tank half the time, you know? Like I said, I've only watched the first 4 episodes, but I hear that Boba doesn't even appear in episode 5, so we've now had 5 episodes of this show in which Boba's motivations aren't explained at all. Why does he want to be the Daimo? Why does he want to rule over this shit place in Tatooine? I mean, Tatooine is a dump. It's always been seen as the dump of the Star Wars universe. Everyone wants to get out of Tatooine. And this guy, you know, he has a second chance at life. He gets out of the Sarlacc pit and he decides, I'll settle down on Tatooine. Why? Why is he doing any of the stuff he's doing? None of it is explained at all. None of it. Anyway, I might as well also talk about the Sarlacc pit because I just mentioned it. So I'm sure I, like many other Star Wars fans, had always wondered that if Star Wars did go back to Boba Fett and did revisit his character, how on earth would he escape the Sarlacc pit? Now, in the expanded universe, the Sarlacc pit has always been built up as, you know, this horrific creature that digests its victims over thousands of years, and it was built up as, you know, something that was almost impossible to escape out of. But in the Book of Boba Fett, Boba manages to escape from the Sarlacc in 2 minutes in the first episode. And yes, I know later on in the series they say he's been there for years, but I don't know, just talk about anticlimactic. I mean, I've been wondering how he's going to escape from this for years, and I want to see him in there and just want to spend some more time with him in there, but it's like, nope, 2 minutes, he's out the pit, let's carry on, let's move the story on. which for me was just a bit of a kick in the face, you know? I mean, him escaping the Sarlacc pit in 2 minutes just made it feel like a minor inconvenience, you know, as opposed to what it should have been, a massive threat, you know, something that basically pushed him to the edge and nearly killed him, but he's just like, no, he's out, let's move the story on. Don't want to see this, you know. I understand why they got him out of the pit quickly, because I'm sure most casual fans who, you know, aren't familiar with Star Wars, have only watched The Mandalorian, probably don't even know why he's in there in the first place, so, and I've only seen Boba from The Mandalorian, so I guess that's why Disney brushed over it, because they don't want to alienate newcomers to the series, but it's a bit disappointing. I mean, if I was in charge of writing the first episode, I would have had Boba stay in the pit for the entire episode. I would have had him in the pit, and whilst he's in there, he's going in and out of consciousness, and, you know, we see his old memories, we see him as a child, we see him, you know, in the original trilogy, and it fills in the gaps for those who aren't familiar with his character, and then by the end of the episode, he finds the strength to fight back, and he escapes the pit. And to me, that would have made it feel earned. That would have made it feel epic. That would have been a moment where, you know, it happens, and you go, yes, Boba Fett's back, you know, rather than him just escaping in 2 minutes and being like, oh, is that it? Oh, he's out. Oh, right, okay, that was easy. Like I alluded to a moment ago, the fact that Disney just kind of skip over the Sarlacc pit, it just shows what their intentions are with this show. They aren't interested in making a character study about Boba Fett. Instead, you know, they just want to make a show about a guy who tells droids that his name is Boba Fett whilst they turn themselves off in some lame attempt at humour. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I feel that Boba Fett says, I am Boba Fett in the show more times than Danny Rand said, I'm the immortal Iron Fist in a Netflix series. It feels like every 5 minutes he's going, I am Boba Fett, I am Boba Fett. Do you know who I am? I am Boba Fett. Like, yes, we know, shut up. Jesus Christ, has this dude got dementia or something? Why is he telling everyone he's Boba Fett over and over again? Some of you might feel that this video is a bit premature given that I've only watched 4 episodes of the show, that, you know, there's only 4 out of 7 out so far, but from my perspective, you know, I've watched over half the show and it just isn't for me. You know, the plot has gone nowhere. Boba Fett isn't the same Boba Fett that I grew up, you know, loving, a character, you know, I used to love as a kid. He's not the same character. He's completely different. And I know the show isn't for me. It's not for me. And strangely enough, I feel that this show isn't a show for Boba Fett fans, which is odd considering it's called The Book of Boba Fett. No. This is a show which is aimed at, you know, the casual Disney fans, the fans who like The Mandalorian, who didn't watch Star Wars before. It's aimed at them. You know, it's easy watching. It's not for people like me, you know, like the Star Wars lore and, you know, grew up with Star Wars. It's not. I mean, here's an example, and I know it's anecdotal, but my girlfriend, she can't stand Star Wars. She doesn't care about the movies, doesn't care for it at all, but she liked The Mandalorian. And I think a lot of people are similar to that, you know, in that they didn't care about Star Wars, but they liked The Mandalorian because it was a simple show about a guy protecting a child and him going on adventures every week. And you didn't need to know about the history of the Jedi to enjoy that show. It was a show that anyone could watch. And she's also liking Boba Fett. And the reason why I think she likes Boba Fett is that because for her, you know, Boba Fett is kind of a blank slate to her. She doesn't know anything about him. She doesn't have the same history with the character that I do. So I think this is a kind of a show that if you've only seen Boba Fett and The Mandalorian and you don't know too much about him, you might find it okay because you won't mind seeing Boba Fett cracking silly jokes and because you don't know anything other, you know, you don't know otherwise. But whereas me, who's grown up with him being this stoic, you know, bounty hunter and, you know, this serious dude, to see him, he's memed now, you know, there's meme videos of him saying like a bantha and I am Boba Fett. To see him become a meme, it's just painful, you know. It reminds me of the way that I felt when I watched Luke throw the lightsaber over his shoulder in The Last Jedi. That's what it feels like. You know, this isn't a show made for Star Wars fans. This is a show for casuals, for people who like The Mandalorian but don't really care about the rest of the franchise. It's a show basically to keep parents and their children subscribed to Disney Plus. That's the only reason it exists. It's no coincidence that nearly every Disney Plus TV show is exactly the same. It's like they have the same formula for every single show, you know? I mean, there's a scene in which Boba makes this kind of cringe joke to a character who has this eye implant, and he says to him that, oh, keep an eye out, or keep your eye peeled, or something like that. And he's like, oh, it's just an expression, you know, and I guess that's the point when the audience is supposed to laugh, right? But, you know, I watched this scene and I just thought to myself, you know what, in that moment, you could replace Boba Fett with pretty much any character from Marvel, you know, replace him with, I don't know, Hawkeye from the Hawkeye TV show, right? He'd probably make the same joke. He'd make the exact same joke because every Disney character, every Disney protagonist is the same quippy hero who has the same sense of humor, which to me is really bizarre because, I mean, my sense of humor is different to most people's humor in America, right? And we're on the same planet. Yet here we are with Boba Fett in the Star Wars universe who makes the same jokes that characters in the MCU do. They all have the same sense of humor. How does that work? How does that make any sense? You know? It's just because Disney follow the exact same formula for every show. They're following the Marvel formula with the Book of Boba Fett, and it's not working in my opinion. What annoys me is that we already have a show about a bounty hunter who does good. It's called The Mandalorian, right? So why are you making Boba Fett the exact same thing, but worse, but 10 times worse. It's just a worse version of the Mandalorian. It could have been something unique, but instead all we have is Boba Fett being a nice guy, roaming around helping people. Like, the show should have been darker. It should have been different. And what's even more bizarre is that Boba actually had somewhat of a dark streak in him in The Mandalorian Season 2. I mean, watch the scene of him, beating the shit out of stormtroopers with his weapon. I can't remember what it's called, but the weapon the Tuskens give him. Yet, in this show, he's like a completely different character. So, I don't know what happened. I guess maybe Disney thought, oh, we can't sell toys, if we make an entire show about Boba Fett beating the shit out of people. I don't know, but it's like they completely changed his character for this show. He's also been completely nerfed in his own show as well, because when he arrived in The Mandalorian, he was a capable fighter. I mean, there's a scene of him taking on the stormtroopers when he has his armor on, and he's got like rockets coming out of his shin pads, his whatever they are, shin protectors on his knees. He's got rockets coming out, and he's like not even looking at people, and he's shooting them, headshotting people, and then the stormtroopers try to escape in their ship, and he fires the rocket in the back of his jetpack and blows them up. And yeah, his action scenes were awesome. When I saw that, I was like, right, this is the Boba Fett I've read in the comics doing all this awesome stuff. This is great. In the Book of Boba Fett, in the 4 episodes that I've watched, he hasn't even used his blaster once. He doesn't do anything. He just sits there. He doesn't do anything. He gets beaten up most of the time. He spends most of his time in his back to tank recovering. It doesn't make any sense. How has he become incapable of fighting in the span of time from The Mandalorian to his own show? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the fight in episode 1 against the Space Ninjas, I mean, first of all, Space Ninjas, who thought that was a good idea? They look terrible. But anyway, the fight against the Space Ninjas, yeah, it's just a prime example of how they've kind of neutered Boba Fett's character in the show compared to The Mandalorian, because Boba gets surrounded on the floor by these ninjas with like these shields which look like they're out of the MCU, something you'd see the Wakandan warriors have on them, and he's surrounded on the floor, and he's there like doing these really slow punches, like just trying to keep him off, and he was awful. But I also just thought, hang on, this dude has a jetpack. Why doesn't he just fly into the sky and then just rain fire on them and blow them up, use his flamethrower, use his rocket, kill them? Why are we instead watching this old guy on the floor going, like, who choreographed this? What is going on? It really feels like this show completely forgot all the cool shit that Boba Fett did in The Mandalorian, Speaking of cool shit, you want to know what isn't cool? Seeing a Julian Casablancas lookalike ride around on an electric scooter. Like, honestly, what were they thinking with these characters, with this scene? Why is Boba Fett hanging around with, like, indie hipster teens? Like, why? Why is he? I don't understand. These characters look so out of place in the Star Wars universe. Everything about them looks too clean and too fresh, and yeah, it shouldn't be, these characters shouldn't be on Tatooine with their shiny bikes. They shouldn't be. It looks terrible, and the chase with them in, oh my god, that was terrible. That looked like that was taking place in slow motion. That was just awful. There's a lot more that I could complain about with this show. I mean, like the fact that Boba rescues Fennec, and she's then repaired by this dude who looks like he works in a really shitty, like, tattoo parlor, and that scene was just terrible, with him like fixing her up and modding her, all complete with the awful like background music as well. I mean, is it really that easy just to get mods in Star Wars and turn yourself into part robot? Here, have a couple of 100 credits, make me into a robot, make me invincible. Is it really that easy to do that? That again, that just seemed completely out of place as well. And after years of waiting for Boba Fett to return, after being annoyed when EA cancelled Star Wars 1313, which I think was a game based on Boba Fett, was going to be a game about Boba Fett, and then being annoyed that Disney cancelled the planned Boba Fett film, I'm now here just thinking, you know what, I wish he'd stayed in the Sarlacc pit. I wish Boba Fett had stayed dead, because this show is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to his character, seeing him, I'm a bantha, seeing him turned into a meme. It's really embarrassing. I mean, like I said, if you're a casual viewer, if you're like my girlfriend, you probably get a lot of fun out of this. You'll probably just think, it's another, easy watch Disney show in which a quippy protagonist goes about doing stuff. You might like it. But for me, as someone who likes Star Wars, who grew up liking Star Wars, I think this show is absolutely atrocious. I think it's terrible. So yeah, let me know your comments and the thoughts below. What do you think about Boba Fett? Have you watched it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Whatever your thoughts. So let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care. Goodbye.